Villagers are one of the game's most recognizable beings, and as a result are a major cornerstone of most ideas surrounding the world's past. Even though most theories treat villagers with more respect than other entities, I still believe that the importance and intelligence of these people are grossly underestimated and overlooked. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Thankfully, the villagers are surrounded by it. Now, I'm not going to start out and point to the towns they inhabit because of another feature regarding theories, that the old builders, which supposedly created and later left monuments for these people to find. Instead, I will point to their cousins, the affluent and dangerous Illagers. These grey-skinned aggressors live in large, complex, and resource-rich structures similarly to their peaceful counterparts. However, I believe that there is far more evidence to suggest that these people built their own homes instead of relying on the ingenuity of a long-gone race. Firstly, the Illagers are a ruthless, tough folk. Not only is diplomacy in-game impossible, but the closest thing to it is disarming and trapping one. Not the most peaceful approach, thus making charity or cooperation between the two groups less likely. Many of their structures are adorned in paraphernalia, signaling that it is theirs and they have not merely moved into them after the original occupants have left. After all, why would a race of creators willingly help such destructive beings? Secondly, Illagers clearly possess great skill with magic, beast taming, and metalworking. And while certainly the old builders could have taught the first of them how to do the many skills under their disposal, this doesn't explain the ability to pass on information from generation to generation, suggesting that sooner or later these people would have discovered pieces by themselves. Now, however, let's get back to the villagers. If you're still not convinced that such entities are all that clever, or that they would even be capable of building their own shelters, we find them in almost any biome, from the desert to the tundra, and everywhere in between. This requires an incredible amount of knowledge and cooperation, which beings who could not even erect a hut will not be able to accomplish. Similarly, complex sophisticated skills such as brewing, smithing, and even fletching are jobs which this group can possess. Lastly, let's take a look closer at the old builders themselves. It's important to know that they are a purely hypothetical species. Assuming that they did exist, the only piece of info we know about them is that they are no longer around. Most theories by their own admission suggest that the legions of undead mobs which surround you every night are in fact said demigods. Taking a closer look at their loot drops, there doesn't seem to be much of note. Potatoes, iron, bows, arrows, and their own meat and bones. If these are the corpses of a supposed great empire, examination yields little to be impressed by, certainly not the mark of a glorious faction who left the world forever changed. Just before we end off, it's important to remember Occam's razor. Did a mega-intelligent and ever-prosperous nation exist? Possibly. Did they waste resources on helping out a dangerous but potentially incredibly efficient force? Possibly. Could the villagers have literally survived for eons simply by parroting? Maybe. However, all of them can be replaced by a simpler explanation of the villagers discovered things themselves, and the builders, if they existed at all, weren't the sole reason for these people's prosperity.